Governor Rick Scott.
Dangerous seas. Hurricane Irma is battering South Florida and the Florida Keys with dangerous winds and continues to remain a catastrophic and life-threatening major Category 3 storm with winds of 125 miles per hour. The center is getting better organized and will intensify as it approaches Florida. The core will move across the Keys early tomorrow morning and go across our state on Sunday. It will impact northwest Florida on Monday. The Keys will see direct impact of the eye of the storm. There will be 18 to 15 inches of rain across the state and up to 25 inches in the Keys. Tornadoes are possible in South Florida this evening and Central Florida tomorrow. Hurricane conditions will be felt across the West Coast beginning Sunday morning. But tropical storm conditions will be felt across the warning area. Millions of Floridians will begin seeing impacts with life-threatening winds tonight. This is a serious threat of significant. There is a serious threat of significant storm surge along the entire west coast of Florida, and this has increased to 15 feet of impact above ground level in southwest Florida. Tampa will see a surge of 5 to 8 feet. The Big Bend area will see a surge of 3 to 6 feet. We also see an increase in flooding of rivers throughout the peninsula. This is clearly a life-threatening situation. Remember, in southwest Florida, the storm surge comes after the strongest winds. Do not think the storm is over when the wind slows down. Local officials will let you know when it is safe. The storm surge will rush in and it could kill you. When it happens, the water just rushes in and rushes out. With the storm's latest track, families in the Panhandle need to be on high alert for severe weather, including tropical storm and hurricane-force winds. Here in Tallahassee, it is likely we will experience hurricane-force winds, and families must start preparing now. We saw what Hurricane Irma did to this community last year, and we could see similar or more severe wind threats from Irma. If you have been ordered to evacuate, you need to leave now. This is your last chance to make a good decision. Evacuations are in place in areas across the state. More than 6.5 million Floridians have been ordered to evacuate. Do not put yourself or your family's life at risk. Now is the time to do the right thing for your family. School buses are aiding in evacuations. Please take advantage of this service. If you need to leave and are unable to do so for any reason, call 1-800-342-3557 and we will do everything we can to get you out. Protecting life is our absolute top priority. No resource or expense will be spared to protect families. I urge everyone to check on their neighbors, their family, and their friends. If you know someone who is not evacuating and should, please contact them and make sure they have a plan to get out now. We have been very aggressive in our preparation for this storm, and now it's upon us. Every Floridian should take this seriously and be aggressive to protect their family. Possessions can be replaced. Your life, your family cannot be replaced. Shelters. We have been working around the clock with counties to ensure there are enough shelters. Currently, there are more than 385 shelters open across every county in the path of the storm, and more are opening tonight. More than 70,000 Floridians have taken shelter, and there is still room for more. If you have a building and emergency officials ask you to open a shelter, please comply. This is so important to families seeking safety. Everyone in Florida needs to find a safe place to go. Traffic. Evacuation routes are moving, and we have implemented emergency shoulder use on I-4 from 50th Street in Tampa to east of State Road 429 in Orlando. Our 1,700 state troopers remain on the road to assist in evacuations and traffic. They will remain on our roads until it is unsafe. Check real-time traffic information and evacuation routes at fl511.com. We are still aggressively working to keep gas stations open and filled along active evacuation routes. I waived Florida's motor fuel import tax for 5 days to help bring more fuel to our state for storm response and recovery. This will make our efforts to bring in fuel from neighboring states after the storm easier. We absolutely know fuel is important, and we are doing and voting every state resource we can to address this problem to ensure we have fuel immediately we want it for everybody, but we want it immediately for first responders and rescue efforts. Every single Florida Guardsman that can be called up has already been deployed to prepare and respond to this storm. We have so many members of our law enforcement community that are putting their lives at risk to help Floridians get to a safe place. And they will not stop until it's no longer safe. We cannot thank them enough. Utilities. Right now, more than 76,000 people are without power. It's going to get worse. Utility providers have actively pre-positioned resources throughout the state and in neighboring states. We know how important power is. We will aggressively work with our utilities to make sure it gets back on. Regarding recovery, we have search and rescue staged and ready once the storm passes and is safe for first responders. I met with the Coast Guard Admiral today, and they are here and have asked us to help in this process. The storm has continued to change rapidly, but we have food and water pre-positioned to be dispersed to impacted areas. We will do all we can to get this out quickly. The Department of Transportation, National Guard, and Fish and Wildlife will work as fast as they can to clear roads so we can get food and water to shelters in impacted areas. We also have guardsmen from other states ready to come in and help with this. But disaster response takes time. We will go as fast as we can once the weather is safe. We're also working with FEMA on temporary housing solutions for displaced residents. I've been talking to President Trump pretty much every day, other members of the White House, and other members of the cabinet. They're absolutely committed to provide whatever resource they can to help us live through this storm and in our recovery efforts. I want to be clear, we are under a state of emergency. Those who perform vital services, including healthcare staff, we need you to be there to help your community. You're answering the call now that we need nurses, and we have nearly more than 2,500 who have already responded. Those who respond to this need are heroes to our neighbors with special needs, and we are so grateful to them. But we can still use more. Florida needs volunteer nurses to help at our special needs shelters. If you're a nurse, please email helpfl@flhealth.gov. You can still also email BPRCHD preparedness@flhealth.gov. So many people across the country and across the world have called to offer their prayers and support. I want to thank the governors of the other states that provided every resource we've asked for. I know the entire country is with us. We have our country's best first responders ready to help us, and Florida, we will get through this. This week, Floridians have demonstrated to the world that we know what it means to get prepared. Neighbors are helping neighbors, and strangers united as Floridians have come together to pull through this devastating storm. Let's get together and pull through this. We will come back even stronger. You can follow my Twitter account at FLGovScott for this life-saving messaging and updates in English and Spanish. Hurricane Irma ya ha estado impactando nuestro estado. Este huracán es muy peligroso. Acuérdense que la vida de usted y su familia es lo más importante. Por favor, tengan cuidado. Cada familia ya debe de estar en un sitio seguro. Para más información, por favor, llamen a 1-800-34-23557. También visitan mi cuenta de Twitter a FLGovScott para más información en inglés y español de Huracán Irma. Mi prioridad es que todos, turistas, familias, todos en la Florida, estén seguros y preparados. I'll be glad to answer any questions anybody has.
Governor, what do you tell people who have evacuated, have moved northward, and will begin to see Irma pass their homes and are thinking about getting back on the roads to go back home?
You got to be patient. You've got to listen to local officials. You've got to be safe. I mean, if you just stop and think about this for a second, we want everybody to survive this hurricane, right? We focused on getting everybody out of the evacuation zones, get them into safe shelters. After it happens, be patient. Wait until local officials tell you if you can go back. Here's what's going to happen. We're going to have down power lines. We're going to have a lot of trees down. We're going to have roads that are impassable. We're going to have flooding. We're going to have all these issues. everybody's going to have to be patient, and it's going to be hard to be patient. Everybody was going to go back to your home and see what happened. But we've got at the state, local, and federal level, we're going to have everybody in here trying to get us back. We're going to try to get the fuel back, try to get power back on, try to get the roads cleared, try to do everything. Also, in the beginning, what we're going to want to do is make sure there's going to be recovery efforts, and so you don't want to be in the way of those. So you've just got to be patient and wait and listen. All the local officials will tell you when it's safe to go back to your neighborhood. We'll at the state level, we'll let you know if the evacuation routes are clear to come back. But everybody's going to have to be patient. This is not, this is just a massive storm, and the recovery efforts and the restoration efforts they're going to take time. And I wish it was going to happen overnight. It's not. This is going to be massive. I'm still praying that we don't lose lives. But we have the risk now, and we have the risk afterwards. Steve.
I'd like to ask you about the extent to which you're familiar with what we saw after Katrina, which is ocean water, salt water, especially in southwest Florida, mixing with fresh water that's used for agriculture, for drinking, for other uses, and causing massive salt water intrusion that takes years to repair. What can you tell us about that?
Well, I know that's going to be a clear issue that we're going to deal with, but right now my focus is going to be how do we survive this hurricane? How do we get people back to their lives? We're going to have significant issues. We're going to have issues with regard to our beaches. We're going to have all sorts of issues that we're going to have to deal with.
Governor, Ohio announced that it's sending down more than 3,000 of their National Guard. I know earlier in the week you said you had access to as many as 30,000. Are you basically telling send everybody because it's going to be that bad?
What we'll be doing is, so right now we're going to go through and see what happens. We'll be assessing the damage as quickly as possible and finding out exactly what we need. I met with the Admiral for the Coast Guard today. We'll try to get down to the Keys as quickly as we can, because that's the first place where we're going to have significant damage, and we're going to have to assess: did we lose bridges? Do we have recovery efforts? Can we even fly in with the airports down there? So we'll figure out what we need. But I can tell you that every time I've talked to President Trump, every time I talk to Brock Long, the FEMA director, everybody I talk to the federal government, they will provide whatever resources, but they know that you want to do it in a coordinated manner. But we'll be doing it. I mean, we have a whole plan to deal with this. Now, everything, as you know, in a disaster, it all changes once you got to find out exactly what happened.
Well, given the seriousness of what you've communicated the last few minutes, you made a decision to close schools and universities and state offices, and some institutions are going beyond next Monday. Are you giving any thought to extending that order beyond Monday in terms of keeping all schools closed throughout the state?
We'll decide as the weekend goes on. We'll see as we start seeing what happened, and we'll see what the damage is. We'll be making a decision.
Governor,
could you give us an update on where things are with gas stations? Are there any places where people are stalled because they don't have gas? Any problems to that degree?
We have worked to try to get fuel around the state, especially worked to try to get fuel in the evacuation routes. I'm sure people have run out of gas around the state. If you can go to fl511.com and look at our evacuation routes, and people are moving. We've got road rangers out there. I don't know if you want to add anything, Brian.
Sure. I have not seen anywhere in the state that is completely out. Now, I haven't looked at that statistic in a couple of hours. I know that as you have seen, many areas have significant shortages, but I haven't seen anywhere that's completely out. And we're working with the retailers here in the EOC to make sure that those parts of the state that are still moving, they are trying to get as much fuel as possible to those areas as well.
Governor,
if you could also give us an update on what's happening with the area around the dike, given the new forecast with the storm.
Sure. We are waiting for an update from the Corps. But if you go back, the positive is, we did everything we could to keep everybody safe. We hopefully, we'll have less winds there, which will reduce the chance that we'll have the water spill over. But we've, all along, the Corps has told us that they don't believe the dike will be impacted.
Governor, I know you can maybe give us some words in Spanish, but the Hispanic community is really concerned about safety and what will happen to their belongings. Are they going to come back to something? ¿Cuál es su mensaje para la gente que se fue, los evacuados? What is your message for those that left the state and are still wondering, am I going to come back to something? Are my belongings going to be in place? ¿Cuál es su mensaje? ¿Se puede decir algo en español?
La seguridad, trabajos, familia, es muy importante para todas las familias en la Florida, es muy importante para mí, es muy importante para mi familia. Si yo estoy trabajando para todas las personas en la familia, por su casa, por su familia.
Governor, can you talk a little bit about the efforts by law enforcement to evacuate the homeless in some of these heavily impacted or expected heavily impacted areas? I read something that law enforcement is using Baker Acts to get some of these people off the street in some cases.
Our law enforcement has gone above and beyond all around the state to do everything they can to keep people safe. You'd have to reach out to them at the local community to see what each local community has done. But I can tell you that I've traveled the state for the last 5 days, and I've met with law enforcement, and they're very committed. Every life is important to them, and I think they're going to continue as long as they can to do everything they can to get people to safety.
What can people do now in these critical hours to be sure there isn't loss of life?
Steve, I think the biggest thing is if you're in an evacuation zone, you've got to get to the shelter. I mean, you might not, or you've got to get someplace that's higher ground. You got to do it. There's not many hours left because the winds are coming. There's not going to be a lot of time now to be able to drive very far. So you got to get to the shelter. You can go to floridadisaster.org/shelter to find out where they are, or call your local emergency management team. And then the other thing is, if you ought to call your family and friends and make sure they're getting out and tell them how important it is to go to safety. You know, it's disappointing sometimes when you watch on TV that you see somebody that's going to ride it out, and based on what you hear from what the National Hurricane Center is putting out, you think, how could you ride that out? If you go down to the Keys and you think, you know, you're going to have 15 foot of storm surge in these, you know, keys that are not very high. You're going to have 15 plus inches of rain. You're going to have 125 to 150 miles an hour winds. I mean, how is anybody going to survive this? So if you anywhere where you think that somebody might be in an area where they ought to evacuate, you ought to call them and try to talk them into tell them how important they are to you.
No one has seen what you've seen, and no one has traveled the state as much as you've traveled in these last 5 or 6 days. So I wanted to ask what you've seen and experienced out there that's caused you special concern.
Well, the thing that really causes me the biggest concern is I don't think anybody has realized the extent of this storm surge. I mean, if you stop and think about it, my hometown, Naples, I mean, 15 feet above ground level. I mean, how do you survive that? I mean, and you know, last, I don't know if I remember this story last year, but this lady just south of here, I think there was about 6 foot of storm surge, and she stayed, of course, because of her pets, which you can imagine you want to, and it got to 3 feet, and she realized, I mean, it was an older house, she probably has 7 foot ceilings, and she realized she was not going to survive. She was so lucky because she got out of her house and she walked out, and there was a high water vehicle, and it was the last vehicle leaving. If it hadn't, she would have passed away. And so if you stop and think about that, and that was about 6 foot of storm surge. And if you listen to her story, she just talked about how fast the water moved in and how fast the water moved out. There would have been no way for her to survive. And so you just think about how can anybody survive this stuff? So I care about everybody in my state, and I just want everybody to live.
Governor, can I ask you about an issue that you know about from your past role in the business, and that's evacuations from hospitals and nursing homes. And I know earlier in the week you talked about the need you all did an air evacuation of one hospital in the Keys. Do you have any indication, because I know that from what I understand, a lot of facilities have had to be evacuated. Have you had any issues, any concerns, any problems in that arena?
There's been a lot of, there's hospitals that have evacuated, and there's also, nursing homes, skilled nursing, a variety of facilities. I did a call with a lot of them last night, and they, some there's still issues. They're trying to find the right shelters. So we're going. We've given them our telephone numbers. We said, tell us where your problems are. We'll do everything we can to help you. I remember last year in Matthew, we had nursing homes that were having a difficult time getting the ambulances to evacuate. So, yeah, there people are they're still struggling to get everything done. But I can tell you everybody's working to get it done. And the
I don't think we're going to have a Katrina-like situation where you had some hospitals in New Orleans that were basically cut off.
I hope, Gary. I mean, we're talking to everybody. You hope you don't. We've put a lot of effort. Justin Senior's calling around. Dr. Phillips is calling. We're talking to everybody, and we're making ourselves accessible, and we're telling them how to get a hold of us. And so I hope that doesn't happen. If you think about it, what concerns you a lot is that the storm moved west, and I think that for some people that surprised them, and so that's why we've worked hard. Really, you see how many more shelters have gotten put up just in the last 24 hours as this thing has moved west, and it's two things: it's moved west, and the storm surge numbers is just. I mean, that is totally different than what anybody's ever seen. I don't think anybody alive today has ever seen in this state anything close to anything like this. 15 feet of storm surge above the ground level. I don't know how you survive that.
Governor, what would you say a lot of the folks that came up here basically from South Florida, now they're more in the path than South Florida, should they stay here or go somewhere else? Or
I think you should follow the weather and see what's going to happen. Look, if you're not going to go drive back to storm surge, right? You shouldn't be driving back to 120, 150 mile an hour winds. So, the goal is to keep following this. We're going to do everything we can to keep people safe. We're going to do everything we can to inform people of how to make the right decision for safety. We're going to continue to do everything we can to keep evacuation routes open, whatever changes. I can tell you that at the state, federal, and local level, people are working together. They're trying to get the information out to keep everybody safe, and everybody I've been in so many cities this week. I can tell you they're working hard. All these counties are working hard. You can see how hard people are working here. I can tell you from the White House to FEMA to every federal agency I know is here trying to be helpful.
Governor, are you going to remain here for the timing of the storm coming through your state, or are you going to move around the state while the storm?
I'll decide. I'm going to be here tonight, and then my goal would probably be, if I can get to the Keys to assess the damage, I'll try to get there when I can. I'm really concerned about how many people might still be in the Keys and what's going to happen to them, and so
Suspending, pending the outcome of the weather.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right, you're listening live there as Governor Rick Scott